Welcome back. We're going to wait for Pierre to pop up here on the screen, which he may do at any minute, but he had to refresh his interwebs, his router. Not everybody can have Unite Private Networks like we do, who's having great specials all the time. Go to uniteprivatenetworks.com and look them up in your area, especially here in Waco. By the way, Garrett, they're going to be going into I believe they're going to be going into the Alico building soon.
Oh, that will be a definite game changer.
So if you're in that, if you're in that building in the next few months, it's going to take a minute because it's an old building. But I believe they secured a deal to move into there, hopefully here soon. So I hope I'm not talking out of turn there, but they're a fantastic company, and I wish they ran the entire internet of the world. They're really, really good. To talk a little Olympics for a second, I am the biggest fan of our women's 4x4 and 4x1s team that you could ever possibly imagine. I was so fired up watching them. Our men on those same events we're an absolute travesty. And how can you dominate in all these other events and then come in seventh and not know how to do baton because you don't practice together until you get to the Olympics? All these other countries are doing it one way and beating us. We need to do that and pick who that we're going to have.
For me, like when it comes to the Olympics, and to me, I guess that's part of the reason I'm not really into them like most people is I feel like America should have the unfair advantage with everything you have at your disposal to train you to get prepared. So in an event like this, when you have world-class athletes, all the training, everything, it's completely inexcusable to lose. It really is.
Yeah. Yes. No, I know. But, other people are good at things too. So the AP poll is out, and it's the first one, and there's nothing that's like earth-shatteringly surprising to me in it. I thought Notre Dame was maybe a little bit high at 7, but I think given their schedule, if they go 10-2, they're in the playoff.
They should be.
Yeah, so if they go 10-2, they're in the playoff. LSU at 13, you're probably like,
that's about where they should be.
Yeah, you're probably like, oh, should it be maybe lower? Like, give them a goal, to get to. But
no, I think looking at that, I was interested to see where they put LSU. I know when the coaches poll came out, I believe they were ranked at 12th. So I figured somewhere in the ballpark between 12 to about 16 or 17 was the right place for them. I don't have a problem with where they're put. They're definitely going to have to earn. I mean, everybody's going to have to, but they have so many obstacles and things are going to have to tie up on that defense to work their way up to actually make where they can even get into a position to compete for the SEC championship or to make the playoff. They have a lot of work to do.
And I will tell you this, I am fine with numbers 1 through 22. I would have Ohio State at 1 and Georgia at 2 because I think Ohio State's, I'm going to keep saying it, I think they're the best roster in college football right now. I mean, again, that might be splitting hairs with Georgia a little bit, but I think they have the best roster. I think the reason they're number 2 and Ohio State's or Georgia's number 1 is Kirby versus Ryan is a guy with jewelry and a guy without.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, Georgia's got the recent championships. If you look at last year, they had a legitimate reason to be in the playoff. They had more of an argument to get into the playoff. Also, I think if you look back to the year prior, it was Georgia head-to-head getting, which honestly, it comes down to that field goal. Ohio State should have won that game.
Yeah.
Easily could have won that game.
Yeah.
So that's really the first time Georgia's been tested like that in a couple years too.
I know this, that if it's Ohio State and TCU may not win the game, but they're not losing 65-7.
That game would have been actually competitive and a lot of fun to watch, not where everybody wanted to check out after a first quarter.
Yeah, it would not have been 65-7.
No.
Ohio State might still win. I don't know. Like, it would have been very, very competitive. That was those teams matched up well together.
I also think that would have been cool to watch Jim Knowles have that defense and be familiar with TCU and watch the parity and the volley back there between them as well.
Yeah. I'm fine with numbers 1 through 22. Fine. I don't think USC should be ranked. I don't think they should. I don't think they should be ranked over Memphis. I don't think Iowa should be ranked over Memphis. I'm fine with NC State at 24. So I'm fine with all that. And we bring back in Pierre now, who, let's see. Pierre, wave your hand, and let's see how if there's any latency there. They're way better. There we are. So how's the internet in Minnesota, Pierre? Is it still frozen over from the long winter?
I thought it was working fine. It seemed to be working fine before we hopped on, but sometimes you got to give it the old reboot, and hopefully it works for the best. And it sounds like it's gone a little bit better.
Look, you have a live-in girlfriend now, so I'm just assuming that this internet problem is not due to why your internet slowed down when you did not have a live-in girlfriend. So I'm leaving it.
That's who I'm blaming. 100%.
Okay.
She's going to take all full blame.
I was kind of blaming your
I'm
previous
full blame.
habits, but I don't know. I mean, we don't have to talk about what those are, but
There's not enough bandwidth. There's not enough bandwidth, Paul. It's bandwidth is a precious commodity around these parts.
yeah. Well, Pierre, you and I were talking about the AP poll earlier. You had a problem with Notre Dame at 7. Go into that a little bit.
It was merely because I feel like the Notre Dame train, the hype surrounding Notre Dame just seems to me every single year. We do this every single year. It's not to say that they don't have a good team or a team that's worthy of being in a top 10 position to begin the season. It's just, why do I feel like we do this every year with Notre Dame where, Notre Dame feels like it lives up or it's there because of its name time and again. It feels like this is a different world entirely of college football where Notre Dame, the name of Notre Dame, in my opinion, doesn't have the cachet that it used to from back in the day. So I feel like Notre Dame still lives on its name a little bit. And that's probably, I might sound a little bit, I might sound a little bitter about that. And I have nothing against Notre Dame personally. I have no issue with Notre Dame. I'm not a Notre Dame hater, but it's just, how many times have I seen Notre Dame get ranked in the top 10 only for them to either lose their second game or lose a game that they weren't supposed to lose, to tumble down the standings. And then by the end of the season, like, well, is Notre Dame making a comeback here? I feel like we've done this far too often with Notre Dame, and that's kind of where I stand with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I liked everything in this poll except for Notre Dame. I thought like they could be a little lower, but if they go 10-2, they're in the playoff. And some of this is a projection of what people think we are going to be the playoff teams, which I think Notre Dame again at 10-2 is definitely a playoff team. And I have a bigger problem with USC being ranked at all after being a 5-loss team last year and losing your best player. The guy who kept you from being an 8-loss team was Caleb Williams. He's gone now. Why are you even in the poll when a school like Memphis could be in there? Or, NC State could be higher. Boise State deserves a look at the bottom of the poll. Maybe Liberty. Like there's I don't know. And like, I also am not nuts about Iowa at 25 because I think that their whole world's about to change, but they've kind of maybe earned that because they've been able to keep their head above water for a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
When you look at the poll.
Yeah. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is Texas comes into the SEC with a lot of hype, and understandably so. I understand why people are excited about Texas, but it's like, are they going to be able to live up to the SEC? And how are they going to arcs in the SEC?
Yeah. All right, Pierre, we're just going to have to let you go because this is freezing up too much, so we're going to roll on. So goodbye to Pierre, but we'll bring back Pierre later on. I hate to do this. God, I hate losing him because it's so good when we have him on. But it's okay. It's okay. We forge ahead. Garrett, you and I can discuss things.
Let's do it.
Since we're here. And we're used to rolling on. For my apologies to that. We just had a little internet snafu in Minnesota, which we have no control over. Let's get on the ball, Tim Waltz. Fix it. So, but I do like USC. There's only one team in the poll this year. I really do feel like is in the poll because of like their name, and it's USC. I look at it, and this is one of the most honestly well thought out polls by the AP ever. Mm-hmm. Usually it's very, very lazy.
Correct.
Very lazy. Like, let's do this. For years they put Texas in at 12 when Texas, look, even in a good year, they weren't the 12th. A better year that they had, they weren't the 12th best team in the country.
No.
So starting them out that way was ridiculous, and it felt like nobody was watching. Now, I do feel like you've got more of the media watching because I'm fine with Georgia at 1. Utah at 12 is a great spot for them, the highest-ranked Big 12 team. Kansas State at 18, good. Oklahoma State 17, good. I'm good with all that. Clemson at 14, I think that's right for Clemson. I think NC State deserves to be a little higher. I think Miami at 19 is fair. All of this. A&M at 20 might be a little bit high. So a little bit, but if you look at A&M's schedule, there's no reason they shouldn't be 20th.
So looking at that, if you said North Carolina State is a little too low for you, would you flip them with like A&M?
Yeah,
is there somebody you would move up to?
I feel more confident in NC State being the 20th best team than I do in A&M right now.
Was that prior or after the Ruben Owens issue?
I don't think it did make a difference to me either way. Like they're deep at running back. Ruben Owens. Now the bummer about Ruben Owens is you're probably about to see Ruben Owens maybe take over a little bit this year.
You were.
Like that was kind of the thing. But with Amari Daniels back and Le'Veon Moss, and they have E.J. Smith that can now step up into a third string role.
Oh, I forgot he was there.
So yeah, I mean, like they're not devoid of talent there at running back. It's not a ridiculously non-deep situation. So I think that there's opportunity there, right, for for A&M to be, but I think that it's fair. There's nothing that irritates me outside of that USC thing. Matthew doesn't think they deserve a ranking at all, but I could also be sold on that argument. I really could. And that they have to prove it argument.
I would have left them out. Honestly, I think that you could make a good, and honestly, looking at this, dude, the only reason they're ranked there is because that week 1 game against LSU. TV wants a top 25 matchup in Vegas. Otherwise, USC would not be in this poll because they did not prove it last year. Like you said, they lost Caleb Williams. Miller Moss is unproven. Outside of Zachariah Branch, we don't know what true playmakers you have. You have a new defensive coordinator coming in with a lot to fix there because it's been completely abysmal going back to Oklahoma with Alex Grinch. While Bear Alexander is there, he's been inconsistent. So I don't know what to make of it. I really feel like that's the only reason USC made this. And the way things are going now with TV having such a control and it's all about matchups and eyeballs, I think that's really the reason why the Trojans are at number 23.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I think you're right. But if you look at just based on the AP poll alone, not the coaches poll, which had a bunch more teams getting votes. It also has a few more people that I believe do vote in it. Or no, maybe less. But the AP poll, I could see Louisville got 111 votes. I could see putting them anywhere in that 20 to 25 range. Virginia Tech got 77.
Virginia Tech should be ranked.
And that they should be ranked over USC for sure. And you could make the argument that them and A&M should be like in the same spot, I think, based on A&M's previous performance. Boise State, SMU, Iowa State, Liberty. No. I have a problem with the schedule. West Virginia, I have more faith in West Virginia than I do in USC right now. Now, could USC surprise everybody? Sure.
They could.
Sure.
I think that's the hope.
But again, based on last year, based on what we know about them right now in this moment, with a new defensive coordinator, with a new quarterback, with Caleb Williams gone, I mean, they're not 23rd to start out the season. That's not what they are to me.
Are you surprised at all? Because all of the preseason polls coming out and everybody looking at how teams are going to be stacked up in conference, everybody's looking at Utah and Kansas State are your number one, and however you want to put it, they're your top 2 teams in the Big 12. Considering most people's opinion. But on here, you have Oklahoma State ranked ahead, which has the Pokes as the number 2 team behind Utah in the Big 12. What are your thoughts on having Oklahoma State ahead of Kansas State in this? And is it just the Ollie Gordon factor or what?
I don't have. I mean, personally,
I don't either.
I don't. I mean, I think they're right there together. So it's probably not Ollie Gordon. It's more Mike Gundy versus Chris Kleiman.
Right.
I think that's what it is. I think sometimes you see teams ranked ahead. I think you're looking at, this is a difference between coaches. Like, who has done more than the other one. For example, ranking Alabama ahead of Ole Miss. On paper right now, Ole Miss might actually be a little bit better than Alabama, except for the fact that Kalen DeBoer just played the national championship game, and Lane Kiffin has not done that.
Yeah.
So Notre Dame, Penn State, right there together, they're about the same to me. That's...
They really are eerily similar with not just how they're built, but their success, and they're always on the outside in. They can compete, but if Notre Dame was to face Ohio State or Michigan, they always struggle mightily, where Penn State isn't able to get over that hump either. But they're both these brands who have had iconic coaches and stuff, and they kind of get the benefit of the doubt there, from my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, we're not going to see Pierre for about 3 weeks because he's going to Tokyo. So
I want to go to Japan so bad.
Yeah, I'm going to tell him right now, enjoy the toilets.
Of course you are.
Enjoy the toilets. It's going to change. They'll change your life. So, yeah. But anyway, we'll figure out. Pierre's schedule is going to change with us anyway, so he might be on a different day, and we'll rotate things back around. Football season's coming up. All right, Gary, let's take another break. When we come back, the NFL preseason has kind of now begun. Let's talk about some of the guys, the rookies, that played well. Not that the preseason means much, but just to kind of update people and see, what are we excited about? What could be good? I know that you, in particular, as a Commanders fan and someone who, if Jaden Daniels needs you to make something go away for him, would at least consider it.
I got you, Jaden.
So you're not even considering it. It just
depends
on what it is.
As a Washington fan who has just been hoping for some glimpse of even a spark of hope, there's no question.
All right.
There's no
so
question.
You would be like his Michael Cohen. You would go ahead and do that. Okay.
Let's ride, Jaden.
All right. I mean, everybody needs a fixer.
Everybody
needs a fixer. And look, he's in the right place to find one, though.
Yes, he is.
If he gets down to you, we're probably in trouble.
We're in trouble.
But he's in Washington, D.C. Hey, I need you to fix this. Here's the thing about Jaden Daniels. Probably will never need that to happen.
No.
He's a great guy. But we'll talk about some of those quarterbacks, some of the guys who showed out, some of the people. I'm not surprised to hear that they're doing well in spite of their draft position. It's sometimes, you see this and you're like, man, I don't know. I'm just a guy watching this game, but number 4 down there is kicking ass. And then you watch him get drafted like, oh, 5th round, 6th round. That's weird. I mean, when I watched that game, he played against a team full of NFL players. He made 17 tackles, but what do I know? I'm not a guy who,
I'm not a talent evaluator.
I'm not a talent evaluator. And then all of a sudden they get him and they're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, I'll tell you this. This is the award, and we're going to name it from now on. Ivan Pace Jr. was a linebacker at Cincinnati 2 years ago. You remember Ivan Pace Jr.?
Yep.
He went undrafted last year, and now the Vikings can't live without him. He's that good. And if you had watched Cincinnati under Luke Fickell at any point or any game Ivan Pace Jr. played in his career, you'd be like, man, that guy's he's everywhere. He's everywhere. And then, linebackers are the ones who kind of get like this where you're like, oh, well, we'll push him back. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he makes all the tackles that can be made.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, we need this guy. So we'll come back and we'll talk about that.